Well, good morning, Victory. Awesome to have you tuning in. My name is Bruce Horden, pastor at Victory Community here in Wangaratta. And today there is a proposal before us. A proposal like that of a marriage from Jesus Christ to each and every one of our hearts. And I remember when I proposed to my beautiful wife, Emily. We were on the beach in Wollongong after 2 days of lead up, because Emily is so special, she deserved more than 1 day. Horse riding, bushwalking, sightseeing, down at the beach, dinners that I couldn't afford. But anyway, after these 2 days, there we are, down by the beach at night, and I say to Emily, "You're my best friend. Will you be my best friend forever?" And thanks be to God, she said yes. And you know what, when I got there was things that I had to have prepared. I had a ring that I had to give to her, which took me ages to save up for, because I didn't really have a lot of money at that time. I was a student. I had to get my parents' blessing and permission for this, and I was only 19 at the time, so they had a lot of reservations, and I actually delayed when I wanted to propose to make sure that I had my parents' blessing behind this. And you know, I had to go to Emily's parents before the day, one of the scariest days of my life, and say to them, could I please have their daughter? And she was only 19 as well. And all these things had to be put in place, prepared for the proposal. And today there is a proposal from Jesus Christ, like that of a marriage, saying to us, will we come and be married to him? Will we allow him in? And I don't know about you, has there been times in your life that someone's proposed to you? It might be just even for a special date. Hey, can we go out and do something together? It might be that they've brought you gifts and created memorable experiences. Maybe someone's even asked you to marry them. And have you ever wanted more than what there is just right now? Have you ever wanted that all-exclusive relationship of love abounding, being consumed by love, that someone would actually want you for all times? And today, as great as my proposal was to Emily, the proposal of Jesus Christ to us is even greater, because it's been Jesus Christ that has taught me what love is. And love, as Jesus understands it, is being willing to lay your life down for another, to give of yourself completely, no reservation and no hesitation. And so today I want to read from the book of Revelations, the last book in the Bible, where John, one of Jesus' closest friends, Jesus and John were next to each other at the Last Supper that Jesus had. And right now, John now is on the beach in Patmos, in jail, about to die. But he gets a vision of heaven. Jesus is resurrected in heaven. And he's told to share what he sees and hears with all of the churches that John had pastored, all of the communities that John had been involved in. And the whole book of Revelation is a love letter from God to us, saying that he cannot wait until this great wedding feast where we come together and be his wife for all times. And the whole book of Revelation is these opportunities and proposals from Jesus saying, will you just come? Will you come to him? And he will reward us. And Jesus is leaving heaven to make a marriage union with us today, where we share with him in heaven all the good thing he has. And so what I want to pick up for you today is Revelations 3:20, a letter written to the Laodicea community, one of the churches like Wangaratta that John had cared for. And here in this, the marriage proposal from Jesus Christ. I'm going to read the whole thing, just John 20 and 21, and then we're going to break it down, because our Western modern day customs don't fully pick up the ancient Israelites and biblical time that Jesus wrote this and John wrote this, all the imagery that's in here. So here it is, Revelation 3:20. Look, behold, I'm standing at the door knocking. If you open your heart and hear my voice and open the door within, I will come into you and feast with you, and you will feast with me. And to the one who conquers, I will give the privilege of sitting on my throne. And just as I sat down with my Father on his throne. So it begins by look, behold. Well, Jesus is saying, don't leave him on the shelf. Don't just leave him neutral. Don't leave him, you could take him or leave him. He is saying, will you actually focus today? Will you look and behold? Will you take a hold of everything he's got for you? He's crying out, don't miss this, please. And my cry to you is, don't miss this. You know, I had to take away all the distractions from Emily when I was about to propose to her. We went somewhere special. It was a time where I didn't want anything else there. And if I had been pulling the ring out and, saying, Emily, will you be my best friend forever? But I'm distracted what's going on around. It wouldn't have really meant much. You have to be focused. God's saying, will you please focus? Because I am standing, he says. I am standing before you right today. And I want us to come into an exclusive relationship. And for many of us, we think that Jesus Christ is sitting in heaven, sitting back on his throne, being fed grapes, fanned by angelic beings and stuff like that. But you know what? Jesus is standing. And I remember taking my stand for Emily, when I got married to her. There I was at the front of the church, and I would stand with my groomsmen, and we awaited for her arrival. I took my stand. And when everybody else in the room sat down, Emily and I remained standing because we were taking a stand for one another that day. And I remembered I've even taken a stand when I've been called to court. Will you take the stand, Bruce? And will you testify? And will you say this or that? And maybe many of you have taken a stand at times. Taken a stand, maybe even for your children, and confronted a system. There's times that I've approached my kids' schools and said, this is not good enough, and I've taken a stand on their behalf. You know, but making a stand is important. And Jesus is standing here before us today. There was a time that a man wouldn't even sit down to the table. Remember that? They'd pull the chair out, make sure the lady is sat, and then only when the lady is sat would he sit down. And if the lady rose to go off, the man would rise. Maybe you've seen it even on a bus or a train or something like that, when someone will take a stand to give a seat to an elderly person. Taking a stand is making a statement that you're putting someone ahead of yourself, that you are at their service, that you are thinking of them and you're at their service. And this is what Jesus is doing here today. Jesus is at our service. Jesus is standing before us, and he is patiently, persistently thinking of us, declaring his love. You know, look, Jesus took a stand when he was on the cross saying, Father, forgive them, I love them. Jesus was taking a stand when he went into the temple and he saw that people were being abused and extorted for money that they shouldn't have been done. And he comes in with a whip and he turns tables over and all that type of stuff. And he takes a stand for justice. Jesus takes a stand for mercy for the woman caught in adultery, who everyone else is standing there wanting to stone her to death. Jesus takes a stand by bending his knee, coming down to her height, but aligning himself with her, and then raising her up. You know, I got on my knee when I proposed to Emily. And maybe you've taken that type of stand in the past. But Jesus is here before us saying, look, behold, I am standing before you. We'll be attentive to his love. And he says, I'm at the door knocking. In ancient times, this standing at the door knocking is a symbol of a marriage proposal, where the groom and his father would stand at the door of the one that they wanted to marry with a desire and knock. They would never enter the house without permission. They had to be received and allowed in. And as the opening of the door was a symbol, we agree to marry you. It was agreeing to the marriage proposal. And as the groom would come, the groom would come with three things in hand. The groom would come at that door, and all the people reading this at the time would have known that this was a marriage proposal. And he would have come with wine that would have been shared with the family, but also exclusively only with the bride and himself. He would have come with bread. And this was just a sample, a symbol of the feast that he had prepared. Because as the bride would open the door and allow him in, agreeing to marriage, they would sit and eat at their table, but then the bride would leave and go with the groom back to his house to a massive feast that he had prepared with more wine and more bread. But not only that, he would also have in hand, of course, gifts. And I'm sure there's some of us that are able to see some of the imagery that's coming out of this. The groom was responsible for the wedding feast, and hence bread and gifts in his hands. He wouldn't come empty-handed. He would come with everything as a symbol that he will take care of us. That not only physically, but also emotionally, romantically, in every form, the groom was saying, I will take you in as mine, and everything that's mine is yours, and you and I will be one. There was an invitation for the girl to come and eat at his table, to live with him and to share all things together, his bread, his wine, his gifts that were the sample. It's interesting, isn't it, that the very first miracle that Jesus ever performed was at a wedding, where Jesus turned water into wine after the groom's family had run out. And I think this is a symbol that Jesus is saying he doesn't want the wine and the spirit of life to run out in any one of us, but rather he actually, the wine that he creates out of water was better than anything that had gone before. And some of us think that as we enter marriage it's great, and then it just starts to peter out. Do you know what I mean? But Jesus is saying, no, come into a relationship with him and his wedding feast, and the life with him only gets better. The wine gets better, richer, sweeter. He's got greater things in store for us. He can turn ordinary into extraordinary. And so the groom would also have a cup. One cup that after he had consummated the marriage with his bride, they would pour a cup of wine, the two of them would drink that, and then they would smash the cup, saying, no one else is to drink from this cup. This what we have just experienced is exclusive just for you and I. And Jesus is promising himself to you and to I today. That he won't turn away, that he will be faithful, he will be true, he won't let us down. And that everything he has will be ours, and everything we have can be his. I want you to imagine today Jesus Christ standing before you, gifts in hand, all of his gifts in hand, knocking, waiting, hoping. He's standing there so vulnerable. It's all at your disposal. He is so wanting to come in. And he says, if your heart is open to hear my voice and you open the door within, that he will come in to you. And Jesus' desire above all else is that we would open our hearts, open our lives, accept his proposal this morning. That would we accept his everlasting love, his all-consuming love, a love that the wine will only get richer and sweeter and better. And Jesus promises that he will come into us, to live inside us, to be one with us, that the two of us will become one. You may have thought that Jesus has been distant, hard to grapple with, hard to understand, hard to get your handles on like others have. But once you receive him into your heart, there is an intimacy with God that can only be experienced by us receiving him. And you know what? Some of us have actually opened our hearts to Jesus, but we have left him standing at the foyer, as it were. We've maybe said, oh, thanks for the gifts, that's all nice and stuff like that. But we've not welcomed him into the intimate, private parts of our lives, into the kitchens, into the lounge rooms and stuff, where we can sit and feast and eat together. And Jesus is wanting a relationship with us, that there's not one meal, be it breakfast, lunch or dinner, that there be not one event in our lives, highs or lows, that he is not with us. That he will eat what we eat. And he will journey where we journey. And we will eat what he eats and journey where he journeys. We will feast on each other, eating from each other. Jesus wants us to be so entwined in each other's lives that we can't tell where one starts and the other finishes. That there is this feasting language right here of a bride and groom wanting to consume and be consumed by one another, to know and to be known, to share all things together. This feasting is fantastic in Jesus. It talks about a passion and a fervour. And this is exactly why Jesus says to John, I want you to write this to the church in Laodicea in Revelation 3:20, because they had become lukewarm. They had become neutral, lifeless. And Jesus was standing, making a proposal of passion, of fire, of energy, of love, with all of his gifts in hand, saying, will you please come and feed on me, eat with me, and I with you? Will you allow us to be one again? Don't let things become dry. Will you experience my love afresh today? A fresh discovery of who one another is and of uniting and feasting on one another. You know, when you marry someone, you gain all that they have. For me, marrying Emily, I gained all of her intelligence, her relational skills, her work capacity, her family situation, her love, her care, her compassion, her mercies. I've gained so much. But equally, when I've come to my relationship with Jesus, I've received everything he is. I can now call myself a Christian, one who follows Christ, one who's in him, because I've got his spirit living inside me, and all of his resources are at my disposal. But equally, Emily took on my name, and she's established, received all my financial benefits and weaknesses and all the resources that are in me. And this is what this marriage relationship's about. This is the proposal of Jesus today. Will we come and share all things together? Please, come and share all things together. I can testify that when you open your heart to Jesus and allow him to come in and eat with you and do life with you, and you do life with him and you eat from him and his heavenly gifts, it's such a rich, rewarding feast. It is sweeter and gets better and better and better. So don't hold him at bay any longer. Will you come and eat and drink from Jesus? Will you feast on him and allow him to eat and feast and drink from you? Will you accept his marriage proposal from Jesus Christ that will change your life? Will you never be alone? You'll never be the same. You'll be looked after, and you'll experience joy and celebration and rejoicing unlike anything else. As I shared earlier, the last cup that the spouses would share, the bride and groom, after they consummated, was actually called the Thanksgiving cup, or the praise cup, the rejoicing cup. And even though it was smashed, what was shared, the wine within, the spirit of things, was a spirit that created thanksgiving and praise and rejoicing. And Jesus wants to bring his spirit into us today, that we can rejoice. Jesus says that he, at his Last Supper, that he would no longer drink this cup. Drink from this cup, which was called the Thanksgiving cup as well, by the way, at Passover, because the Passover and marriage ceremonies were aligned, because all of it was pointing to what Jesus is wanting to do with us. And he said he wouldn't drink of the Thanksgiving cup again until he drank it with us in heaven. And in other parts of the scripture, Jesus says, when one of us turn to him, open our hearts, there is rejoicing and celebration in heaven unlike anything else, because we get to eat and drink from the cup of thanksgiving. So rather than leaving Jesus standing at the door, will you welcome him in? Will you welcome him into your heart and into your life? And what Jesus promises is that as we do that, that he will give us the privilege of sitting with him on his throne in heaven. Jesus wants us to be conquerors and victorious and have a throne like him. He doesn't want to sit alone. He wants to sit with us, and we can sit with him in heavenly places on his throne. Isn't that awesome? Jesus, we might think of Jesus sitting in heaven, but no, he's standing, waiting. He's standing at the door of our hearts, in fact, saying, will you please let me in? And I pray that each and every single one of us will let Jesus Christ into our lives today. Many of us run around chasing after love, chasing after success, security, experiences, anything that will satisfy. Jesus Christ will satisfy. Jesus Christ will give you joy and contentment and peace like you've never had before. There will be excitement and passion and this fiery energy within you that's just, it's awesome, and I want it for you. So please, hear the words of Revelation 3:20. Hear the words of Jesus Christ himself to you and to I. Look, please, behold, acknowledge that Jesus is there, standing, knocking, pleading, on his knees, offering all that he is to us. Will you please open your heart, open your lives, and allow him to come in and eat with you and you with him and become one? Oh, and will you sit with him in his throne in heaven? Oh, this is a love proposal from Jesus Christ for you. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. There can be such rejoicing and a life-transforming experience. No, it's not a life-changing experience. It's life-changing moment where you accept his proposal and you become his bride forever, and you walk in marriage. The excitement for me with Emily was not that she said yes, but it was that every day we've lived together. It's not about the wedding, it's about the marriage, and Jesus is inviting us into that. Not just to say yes and then forget him and leave him on the shelf and we'll see him sometime later in heaven. No, Jesus is saying, I'll come in and be with you right now, and we can do every moment of every day together, and it'll be better and better and better. Oh, accept his invitation. Victory, it is time to stop being lukewarm. Time to stop sitting on the fence. Time to stop being neutral. He's standing before us, pleading, persistently, patiently, gently, kindly, vulnerable as he is, all waiting for us to receive him. Please receive him today. Will we let him feast on every bit of our lives, past and present, and eat and consume everything we are? And will we consume and eat of him and everything he is, and experience his joy and his victory in his life? There is no greater symbols than these of bread and wine and the gift of his Holy Spirit today. And as we partake communion today, we are saying, Jesus, we want to eat from you. Jesus, we want to drink from you. Jesus, we want to receive the gift of your Spirit, that we become one, entwined forever, you and me, one. Jesus, I want to eat of you. And so as I'm eating of you, I'm saying I need everything from heaven to come here. But I'm also saying, Jesus, come into me. So if you've got something to eat, bread, biscuit, doesn't matter, I invite you, if you want to receive Jesus today, and you want to receive fresh love and passion and no longer want to be on the fence and neutral, but you want that fiery passion, energy, rejoicing like at a wedding feast, and you want that with Jesus Christ, will you eat right now with me? Oh, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, let us drink together this thanksgiving cup, this cup of praise, this cup of rejoicing, as I rejoice in all that you are no longer at the door, but that you're in my heart. Thank you, Jesus. Dear Jesus, dear Jesus, thank you that you have loved me with an everlasting love. Thank you that you have never turned away, that you have always been right before me, standing attentive at my service, gently, kindly, knocking, waiting. You have never pushed yourself on me. But now, Jesus, I want to look and behold you. I want to open my door afresh to you. I want you to come into areas of my life that I've never seen or tasted or experienced you before. Jesus, I want your love in me. I want to be united, becoming one with you. I want you to be able to feast on all I am, and I want to be able to feast on all that you are. Jesus, I accept your invitation. I accept your proposal here today. I love you, and I will love you for all times. I will exclusively be yours, Jesus Christ. And for all of you who agree with me, we say amen. Let it be. Hey, Victory. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. I will see you shortly at 11 o'clock for our live stream. If you have prayed that for the very first time, if you have opened your heart and your life to Jesus Christ for the very first time today, I need you to let me know, because I want to rejoice. I want to celebrate with you. And if you have recommitted, if you have opened it up and experienced Jesus Christ and the filling of his Spirit afresh today, let me know. And let us celebrate and rejoice together in the goodness and the love and the grace and the mercy and the awesomeness of who Jesus Christ is. All right, thanks, Victory. Love you guys, praying for you, and I will look forward to talking with you shortly. Okay, thanks.